Hey everybody, this is eTradeSupply.com, and today we're going to show you how to change the LCD and digitizer assembly on a Samsung i405. So as you can see, the one we have right here, the LCD assembly is broken, so we're going to switch it with this one here. This is a full LCD and digitizer assembly. You're going to need a adhesive, a small Phillips head screwdriver, some tweezers, and an opening tool. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the battery cover, take out the battery. If you have a SIM card or a micro SD card, you want to take that out too. Next, there's 7 screws around the frame, so you're going to have to take those out. Okay, so once you got all the screws out, you're going to slide it open. Then you're going to take out your prying tool and put it in between the keyboard and the frame and go all the way around. Now next, we're going to take off the motherboard. There's 3 screws to take out, or 4 screws. Next, using our separation tool, we're going to take off the SIM card and micro SD assembly. First, we're going to unhook this connector. Then we're going to slide the tool in between the board and the assembly. And you might want to loosen the vibrator as well, because it's stuck on there with an adhesive. So once you get that loose, you can take off the whole thing. Now, before you take off the motherboard, you first need to loosen this camera here, because it's also stuck in with an adhesive. So once the camera is loose, you could take your prying tool and slide it between the motherboard and the middle frame and slowly pry that apart. Don't forget to take off this switch. That should have been taken off sooner. So you unclip that and pull out the motherboard. And then you can take off the camera by flipping up this little black clip. And then you can just slide it out. The keyboard is not held in by anything, so you can just put that aside. Now the 2 middle frames are held together by several little screws, so we'll just unscrew them. Now, using your prying tool again, you need to separate the flex cable ribbon from the middle frame. It's stuck on there by a pretty strong adhesive. So be gentle and just slowly pry it up. And then you could just slide off the top piece of the middle frame. You'll have to slide down this piece before you can remove the other middle frame. And you'll also have to take out 4 screws in all 4 corners. And once again, using your separation tool, you're going to have to pry apart the middle housing and the frame which goes around the phone. You might have to use a little bit of force to do this. Then once again you can gently remove this middle housing. Be gentle with the flex cable. Now we can see the digitizer and LCD assembly, and we're going to take off these pieces of tape which are covering the circuit boards. Now, using the pry tool again, we're going to take off the main flex cable. So we're just going to snap up this black piece, and then the flex cable will slide right out. And at the bottom, we're going to pull out the front-facing camera. It's held in by an adhesive. So you're going to want to be careful not to tear the adhesive if you want to use it again. And then on the cable, you can take off the front-facing camera just by unhooking this connector. And the last flex cable you need to unhook, you do so by using your pry tool and snapping up this little black piece. And then you can gently pull out the flex cable, which is for the navigation panel. Next, you're going to take your separation tool again and slide it in between the screen and the frame. And you want to get underneath the adhesive and go around the entire screen. Now, once you've fully loosened the adhesive, you can gently push out the screen from the frame. And if it's still stuck anywhere, just use your tool and gently pry it apart. Now you've got your screen off. You can see the broken LCD. Now, before the new adhesive is applied, the old adhesive has to be completely taken off, or the new one won't stick properly. So take off what you can using your tools and your fingers, and anything that you can't take off, we'll take off later with the cleaning agent. So now, using a cleaning agent, we're simply going to clean the frame to make sure that it's completely smooth and ready to put the new adhesive on. Next, we're going to prepare an adhesive. We're going to take off all the pieces that we don't need, and then we're going to stick on the ones that we do. Now, when you're ready to stick on your adhesive, you're going to want to make sure that you center it perfectly. Otherwise, it might get in the way when you're installing the LCD. After it's been stuck on in proper position, you're going to want to make sure that it's tight everywhere that it's making contact with the frame. Now we can expose the other side of the adhesive and get ready to stick on the new LCD assembly. You're going to want to place the speaker back in place, the speaker cover. Now we take our LCD assembly, take off any kind of protective plastic, and make sure it's clean. If it's not clean, the adhesive won't stick properly. Make sure you put it on the right way, and it will fit perfectly between the frame. And then again, make sure it's tight everywhere where it makes contact, all around the ledge. Now for reassembly, we're just going to do the exact opposite of everything we just did. So first off, I'm going to make sure that this little switch is up, this little connector. We're going to place the flex cable inside the connector, and you're going to want to push it in very gently. Make sure that the little white line on the flex cable lines up with the two white lines on either side on the board. And once you have it in, you can snap this down and it will be tightened into place. Next, we'll take our main flex cable ribbon. First, we'll put it in at the bottom, back onto the adhesive, which we did not damage. We will lift this plastic piece again and push in the flex cable ribbon. Make sure that the white line aligns on either side, and you can snap it into place. Then we'll take the front-facing camera, put it in its spot, and connect it onto the main flex cable ribbon. Once everything is tight in place, you're going to take your protective tape and put it back onto the circuit board on top of all the connectors. Next, we take the first piece of the mid housing. You want to make sure you're facing it the right way. So like this, and put the flex cable through. And now you're going to snap this piece back into the frame. You're going to want to use a little bit of pressure here, using your thumbs and your index fingers close, and you'll hear a little snapping sound. Then you'll take your screws and screw the housing back into the frame. Once you have all the screws in, you're going to take the other mid housing, gently put the flex cable through this one as well, fit it on top. Once you have it properly fitted, you're going to gently fit in the flex cable as such and stick it back on where your adhesive should still be functioning. Once this is done, you can screw it into place. Again, the keyboard is not held in by anything, so you just place that where it belongs. Now we're going to place our camera back into the motherboard, just sliding it into the slot and making sure that the white lines are aligned, and then snapping down the little black clip. Then we'll put the motherboard back on top of the middle frame. And we will take the SIM and micro SD assembly, put it back on where its adhesive also should still stick, and place the vibrator back in its spot. There's also an adhesive under the vibrator, so make sure it's properly pressed down. And do the same thing with the camera, make sure it's also pressed down into place. And then you could put your 4 motherboard screws back in. So you make sure everything's properly stuck into place. You could reconnect the motherboard. Do this gently and make sure you have it properly centered, otherwise you may damage the connector. Put back in any buttons that may have come loose and fallen out, and make sure they're in tight. And once everything is in place, you're going to start from the top near the earphone jack, slide that in, and then just snap everything back in all around the phone. And next we're going to screw back in the 7 main screws. And once your screws are in, just put the battery back in and put on the battery door. You can put in your SIM card and your micro SD card if you have one. And you can peel off the plastic, the protective plastic on the front. And just like that, you have a brand new LCD fully installed. So if you want to buy any of these parts or other parts, come visit us at eTradeSupply.com.